Can you hear me? Check, check. Testing 1, 2. Testing. Can you hear me? Jen?
He's just finishing up 7th. Yeah. Still a pup. No, he's at CBA. Yeah. Yeah. Good. He doesn't like the work, but he's doing. He's doing good. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's tough because it's not like kids he's going to school with are in his neighborhood where he can hang out. They're scattered all over the place, and I really love the school because it's for a parent. It's like you don't have to worry about so many things. The academics are rigorous, and but I do have a little bit of just the social. Yeah. Yeah, they're scattered all over. Yeah, so, but it's, yeah. I mean, the one thing, the impression I get is that the relationships, by the time the kids get to be seniors, the relationships are pretty close, and there's a real feeling of connectedness with the school, which is really, a motivator for me. Exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah, he's doing stag. Starts tomorrow. Matter of fact, he needs to. Well, he needs to eat more hamburgers and milkshakes, though.
That's what the coach Eric's exit meeting came across this year.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Town Board meeting, Malta Town Board meeting, June 5th, 2023. Please rise at this time for salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. This time, I ask for a motion to approve the minutes for 5/22/23.
So moved.
Second.
A discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Comments from town board or department heads. Real quickly, I'd just like to give a shout out to our Malta Veterans Appreciation Program that put on annual brick ceremony out here at the Captain David Wallingford Park. That was the fifth one that we've had now, fifth ceremony. It went very well. I had other dignitaries there along with myself. We had Senator Tedisco, Kerry Warner was in attendance. So it was once again successful, and thank you to the Malta veterans for putting that on.
I got something.
You got something?
Yeah, I'd like to make a quick shout out too. We tend to forget that part of our town, Shenandoah belongs to, a little small portion. And I'd give a shout out to the girls softball team that won the sectionals that played over here in Luther Forest, and also the boys baseball team. And I'd be remiss without saying that our own judge, Woody Sloth's daughter, was New York State Player of the Year 1 year, made the Hall of Fame. Actually went to Steve, your alma mater, Delaware. So I just want to give a shout out to the Shen teams.
Awesome. Anyone else from the board have anything to say? Department heads? Kristen, you got anything? Anybody? Roger, is he here? No, Roger's not here. We're all good then. Very well then. That being said, comments or questions from town residents?
I'm Cynthia Young, I live over here in Calmer. I have a couple of questions.
I don't think your mic's on.
Oh, there you go. I have a couple questions for you. The first one is, I've been told that there's no accommodation for absentee ballot voting for the water district. Is that true?
Steve, would you like to address that?
Yes, that is correct.
And, I mean, it seems like with such a small sampling, we would like to have pretty much everybody vote. So if they happen to be out of town, they're just,
Well, unfortunately, voting in special elections is governed by state law, and we don't have a town local law adopted to authorize it
Okay.
in the special election. So in reviewing it, we weren't able to offer that. But I would note for the public, that's one of the main reasons that we waited several months to have this election, because knowing that there were some residents and others that either spent time in different states from the prior election to try to accommodate and make it open to as many of the residents within the water district as possible, we put it on in June.
yeah, that makes sense. And who is exactly is eligible to vote? I mean, is it by benefit unit or?
No, as far as the vote goes, it's again governed by state law, and it's the owners of real property. Any owner of real property within the district is eligible to vote. Any corporation or entity is eligible to vote, one vote. If you own multiple properties, you're only entitled to one vote. And if there's multiple owners, husband and wife, for example, they're each entitled to a vote.
Okay, that, just curiosity because I've been asked. The second question I have, whatever
That's your
happened to
third
the-
question you're asking.
Oh,
I
oh,
wasn't
yeah, I suppose
counting.
you're right.
I wasn't counting, but go ahead.
is whatever happened to the master plan? It never was adopted, right? Where are we with that?
Steve?
Well, the things that still need to be done is the final draft version of it to be approved, as well as have any revisions potentially approved by county planning, go back to them, and then for the board to put it on for potentially a vote, or if there are any substantial changes, perhaps even additional public hearing.
I believe county planning approved it, right? So, huh? Not the final. They did, so the draft we looked at was not the final draft. Okay. Last, this is not a question, it's an invitation. Our speaker at Rotary on June 22nd will be Kerry Warner. She usually comes after the budget and gives us a legislative update, kind of updates us on what the priorities were in the budget, and it's always very interesting. Our meetings are open to anyone. We meet at 7:15 a.m. at the Malta Diner. Don't be making a face like that.
Thought you were gonna change it to
Give
8.
you some coffee.
Thought it was going to be changed to 8:30 or so.
Yeah, I wish,
Bit
but no,
later.
7:15 at the Malta Diner on Thursdays, and so Carrie will be there on Thursday, June 22nd. So please, anybody that's interested in hearing what what might be happening, going on at the state level. I guess I didn't say Assemblywoman Carrie Warner is who will be there, so please come. We have a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Better than last time, at least.
You were last time, you're second this time.
Way in my life. I came here 2 weeks ago on behalf of my client, Mr. Willett, who is a Malta resident. I am not.
That's not on Oscar.
There we go. I had people with me from Meadowview Estates, and I presented to the board 3 letters, one from me, one from a certified arborist, and one from Lee Everhart. The one from me was stated that that was a dangerous condition, and we've got to address this. Mr. Willett's land is in danger, and anybody driving up that road to his barn is in danger. In fact, we talked about when the person died in Saratoga State Park 2 years ago, and you were there, so you know what can happen with diseased trees. We can't play around with this. And the arborist report said in a windstorm, and they're diseased, and they're old, and they could fall. This is an expert. This isn't me making any kind of claim. This is an expert. We backed it up with an expert's report. So I understand that there was going to be some kind of in-camera, whatever, discussion not out in public between the board, and I was going to hear something. I never heard anything, and I thought, okay, they're busy. That's okay. I know you have other stuff going on. I was here for that meeting. And then I got a diatribe by Mr. Dunn, and I read it. And, you got to stop talking. I have it, and it says, no legal action is pending. That is correct. No legal justification. Want to bet? You got to stop. I assume I am the attorney you were talking about. I represent a client, Ted Willett. Mr. Dunn, please keep my name out of your emails. We've had it before. I don't want you discussing me. You did that once, and look where it got you.
Okay,
I'm sorry, but he
Okay.
can't refer to me by name. You want to say Mr. Willett's attorney, that's fine. Do not refer to me.
okay, understood.
Nobody has provided me with an update, although that would be the courteous thing to do. You'd notify the attorney who made the presentation what's going on. I didn't get that courtesy. The issue is not resolved, far from being resolved. It is true, he said that because I went in public, I made it not a confidential matter. That's true, it's not confidential. I don't expect it to be confidential. The people at Meadowview Estates know about it. I think the residents of Malta should know about it. That there was a dangerous condition created, not by you, by nature, and you've got to address it. It's got to be addressed, whether it's not Mr. Willett who's responsible for it. He doesn't own it. He doesn't have an easement. Meadowview Estates owns it. Town of Malta has an easement. One of the two of you. They claim it's you. You claim it's
We
them.
have an easement in that area. That's been
do.
established. It's a matter of responsibility. That's what the holdup, so to speak, is right now.
They think it's you that's responsible, and you think it's them. I understand that. But it's not my client. He's what I call a pure plaintiff.
And
He
we have
didn't do
acted,
anything wrong.
we have acted in a dutiful way. We had the paperwork that you submitted to the last meeting.
But why
All
would
of us had
Mr.
looked at
Dunn do this diatribe? I'm not done yet. Listen to what he said. You've seen it. The town is a party by the virtue of the town holding an easement. If you are a party to an action, as you know, that you name everybody in the action. By virtue of you having the easement, you're going to be part of the action, and I don't think you want to do that. You said in your statement, and I don't understand how you said this, Mr. Willett seeks free legal counsel. Why would you say something like that? Free legal counsel by virtue of who? You think I'm free? After 39 years and 300 trials, believe me, I'm not free. So I think you ought to retract that statement. Why don't you look at me for a change? Don't look down and don't look over there.
Okay. Right, yeah.
No, it's not ridiculous. It's someone challenging you.
No, what it is a confidential communication between town board members and their attorney.
shouldn't be
That has been
confidential.
shared with you
And it shouldn't be
inappropriately and is now being aired out publicly.
Well, it
I
shouldn't.
asked for this entire matter to be dealt with publicly.
Yeah, it should be.
And
That's
apparently,
right.
that's not what others desire.
Well,
They would
that's not my
They would
problem.
rather take
That's
out of
your
context
problem.
discussions.
By the way, I
and
called
public
your
comment
insurance broker
periods,
today.
which should not be happening.
They know nothing about this. You better put them on notice.
Okay,
Because
Oscar,
if you
could
get
I?
sued, Mark, if you get sued, they're going to disclaim. And then you got a big problem. You got to notify them. You have to do that.
Since
I-
the
Mark-
beginning of this, yeah.
Although I've had to recuse myself from
Yeah.
this matter, but the town is represented by an attorney in the
Right,
matter. and
I
I-
was
Oh,
just
she
about to
said,
say that.
I submitted you a letter. She said you told her not to get involved. I gave you a copy of it.
That was the very first.
Well, I haven't
When
heard
this
anything
first-
since then. No one's
I
contacted me.
don't know anything about that, but
Well, why
our
didn't
legal,
someone
to
tell me-
Steve's point, has been notified and been consulted in this matter.
But why didn't someone tell me that? That's courteous.
I was
what
under
if
the,
I sued
I
it?
was on
No.
the understanding that you were notified of that.
No, nothing since that meeting. Zero. Nothing. And I know from talking to town residents, the reason you don't want to maintain that easement is you're going to have to maintain every easement in town you have, if we win this case. And that's possible.
Are we debating this issue now during
I
public
don't
comment?
think
or-
so, no.
This isn't the city of Saratoga Springs. I think we should get to this town's business.
The bottom line is that I'd like an answer within a week. If you're going to say, no, we're not going to do it, we'll place it into the courts.
I will reach
Going
out
to
to
do
our
it?
legal
Give
counsel
me a week. I
and
will give you a
advise her
week.
of such.
Lee Everhart, I know her, we've talked a lot about this. Just be courteous, I'll give you a week, let me know. I can't have the risk of someone in Mr. Willet's family driving up that road to the barn and one of those trees falls on his car. Then you'll have the same.
Nobody wants that to happen, I can
Well,
assure you.
But that's what the arborist
But-
says is going to happen.
But we're also not going to engage in something that is not appropriate for the town to be spending public funds on to take care of if it's not our responsibility. So I would hope that you would understand that.
If it's not your responsibility, only a judge is going to decide if it is. Who
You're
else is
right,
gonna
you're right, a
decide?
judge is, but as of right now, our position is that's not our responsibility.
Well, we don't have a position as a town board yet on this matter. You know, we're going to have further
Mark
consultation.
just said it's not their responsibility.
The town board as a group has not taken a position on this matter. We're under no obligation, of course, to communicate with you as to whether we take a position or what that position is. And you have to act accordingly, you know, based on what your client's interests are. All right, that's the bottom
I'm
line.
going to advise them to place it in suit.
I mean,
That's my legal
it's your
expertise.
prerogative. If you care to do that, so be it, you know?
Well, and the people from Meadowview Estates, they're hiring an attorney I told them they should, and they're gonna get
Well,
in on this too, because
You know, some
they're
of
gonna
us,
get named.
I mean, I practice law, Oscar, right? I understand how it works. Alls I can do is assure you that as far as I'm concerned, we're going to try and diligently determine what our legal obligations are and act accordingly within the law. That's all I can assure you.
In discovery, I will.
Threats
ask
of
for a copy-
litigation notwithstanding, that will
Ask
not
for a
change
copy
it.
of that easement and
Relationships,
see what you
relationships will not change it.
Can I finish?
Well,
Okay, guys.
You've gone on quite
I
enough.
think we've gone far enough with this tonight.
But I'm gonna tell you.
Point
I
taken.
will ask for a copy of that easement and see what is in there to see what you're responsible for.
It's recorded. You're welcome to get it
I will
from.
get it. I will have my investigator pick it up tomorrow. Okay, thank you. He'll pick it up. You think it's funny?
All right, please.
You know, that's really disrespect. He thinks it's funny?
No, we have residents here that are concerned about town business. If you want to litigate, litigate.
Town business.
Go litigate, Oscar.
I would- Mr.
We have,
Saturday,
we have people that have
You
real
don't call me
concerns
out.
here.
Okay, all right, folks. Yes, sir.
when nobody wants you.
Good evening. I just lighten the mood here. My name is Arvinder Singh, and I am.
Do you have any
here-
jokes you can tell, maybe?
Oh, we can tell you a joke. We just want it easy here. I'm here from the planning board, and my interest was in a property in Damascus Road, in which I want to buy. It's an agro land, and the reason I want to have to explain to you that my purpose is all agricultural.
Excuse me, folks in the back, please. Someone speaking. I'm sorry, sir. You continue.
So I needed some kind of a mindset of the town that if I buy that land, that you will allow me what I want to do and which I want to share with you right now. My concept of building what's called a greenhouse farm, multiple greenhouses on the land, which will be either rented or leased to people who want to stay green. The reason the attitude towards being green and carbon neutral is essential for us, we realized that about a couple of weeks ago in New York Times, Amazon selling organic food, no chemicals. They went to China and found out it's all chemicals because they have this doctored food. And I'm also a physician. So I know that the incidence of irritable bowel syndrome and incidence of allergies is way, way up in our hospitals. And that's primarily one of the biggest thing is that everything we have been made prisoner to this big business who are trying to control the quality of the product they throw at us. And we have no way to go. So from there stemmed this idea that, hey, and the second thing which got this idea together was that we have our children, especially, not us, probably most of us too, but our children have no contact with dirt. They have no idea what land is, what earth is, and how to respect it. And there were 5 communities in the world, and none of them in America, who live, their average person, 25% of the people live 100 and above and healthy. Why? And researchers have done a tremendous amount of study, and they study, they eat right, they are social. Hey, most Americans are very social, they drink and eat right and have a good time all the time. But they don't, and anybody knows the incidence of people living above 100 in America? Less than 1%. So considering all this, the root cause of our problem is, of course, our eating habits and our environmental pesticides. So what we want to create is, now coming back to, is that we have developed a prototype where you can have in your greenhouse, which is, we're starting with 40 by 40 prototype, where you can have your own fish for tilapia fishing. You grow your own tilapia, you can fillet your own tilapia, you can grow your own chicken coop, and then have a very patented tier system in the greenhouse where you can have multiple crops at the same time by tiering that. So it's not just one flat piece you're walking about. Higher the temperature goes up, the temperature goes higher up there, and you will find you need crops which need more heat than crops with less heat and less. And we have done that. We do want to make it solar so that we do not want to depend on the grid. So if we have panels are opaque, so we have this concept of sliding panels, which will slide down daytime and they can go up and cover our shades, and they generate enough electricity, hopefully, and I'm not sure because we haven't had the prototype done for that. It will help so that we don't need the grid.
Sir, where are you proposing to do this again?
This is at 1A Damascus Road. There's a 28-acre agricultural land.
Okay, that's between Damascus Road and the Northway?
High Street. Yes, that's right.
It's near the pump house in that area. That there's a pump house, I think, out there in the
that's correct.
field.
There's a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
You want agricultural and solar panel use there is what
Solar
you're saying.
panel is entirely used for energy efficiency there. We will also be capturing rainwater so that we are not using local water, which is a lot of time with all these forever chemicals in the water, in the Hudson and all. We just want to make people realize that they can be in touch with the nature. Plus, we will be recirculating the fish. It's a microsystem which we want to create, where the fish and the chicken coop going back into the dirt, going back into the plants, going back to composting in there. So it'll be a system in just that compact land or compact area, 40 by 40. And we are not limited to that. If people do not want a greenhouse, they can have a piece of land there, like you have it right in the back here, but that is like a kiddish thing. But we can have them be more professional and give them the education to how, and we can help them also with our farm equipment and all this stuff so they can come down and do that. And furthermore, my interest was from Manhattan, that people want to do their own stuff, but they cannot because they're too far away. There will be apps which will be controlling the pump, the water, the heat, the ventilation, the humidity in that place. So they have nothing to worry about. They can do right from their cell phone.
And
So
do you own this land now, sir?
I'm sorry?
Do you own this land now?
I do not own the land. You're talking about the land.
The land, right?
I do not. I was going to bid the land, but I wanted to present to the board, as planning board suggested, I present here, and some kind of consensus that would you be interested in me developing this idea in that land further?
Is this part of the PDD now, or is it outside? It's part of the PDD, is it not?
It is, it's the estate lot. It's
Right.
20 acres, so it's encumbered by the Northway buffer, but also some stormwater areas and the road that Malta has reserved that we could build someday. So it does drive it down to roughly about 20 acres. The reason why he is here, he's come in and talked to planners. He's got enough acreage as far as the ag overlay zoning, but the PDD gives the town board the ability to regulate, a single-family house is allowed on that lot, a barn, and a shed. And the town board is the one that determines what the use of the barn is, what the architecture of the barn is, and I believe it was color too. And so that was one reason why we suggested that he comes here to talk to you at some point, because it would be the town board's decision about the use of the barn that gets built. And I know he's talking about greenhouses, which does fit in the agribusiness definition. But that's why he's floating this balloon in front of you all, because I had mentioned that you probably aren't even aware that that is in your purview, because no one reads the PDD.
Colors of the barn and everything, all of that, really.
So in this sense, the barn would be the greenhouse could be is that definitionally, or would we require some sort of amendment?
So even though he's focused on the greenhouse, the way it was, the greenhouses, the way it was discussed with planning was that they would be interested in a house being built because they need a caretaker. They would be interested in a barn because they need storage for some of the things. And then the greenhouses would be almost ancillary, if you will. And the greenhouses do fit in underneath our agricultural zoning because they have more than 7 acres.
Okay,
So
so
this-
we wouldn't need,
Differences of-
so we would need to amend the PDD to do this? It would just be a simple
Not
approval?
necessarily, but again, you guys have the ability to say what the use, architecture, and color of that barn is, so it's a process that we have to go through a little bit.
It's a big responsibility, the color of the barn.
We've got a whole new neighborhood going across.
It's almost got to be red, doesn't it?
I got to be honest with you. You know, I would need to see some paper to, you know,
agree.
to be able to even give you any feedback. I mean, I'm concerned about an ag use with chickens and fish farms that close to a residential, you know, neighborhood. So before, I'm not able to give you any kind of feedback without some papers and drawings in front of me.
But did you get the concept? It's not a big chicken farm. It is what is enclosed in that 40 by 40 foot space. You follow what I'm saying? It is not like a whole chicken farm.
I can't follow what you're saying. That's why, you know, give me some paper that shows me where the barn is, you know, describe what's going on, where its relationship would be with the neighborhood. I need some paper to be able
Okay,
to.
I got you.
And you understand, you can't even make an application for rezoning unless you have an interest in the land, you know, which you don't at this point. I try and be straightforward with people. I have a lot of skepticism about this. I'm willing to look at something, but I just want you to know in advance, I'm kind of skeptical at this point.
No,
I speak for
just
myself
wanted the
only.
Feedback, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, others may disagree, as they occasionally do.
I'm intrigued by the whole concept of what you're talking about. I would like to see something further myself, obviously, but the thought behind what you're planning to do or would like to do, it's interesting to me. I don't know what's going to become of that land there if nothing does go in there. If there's ever going to be a home, I don't know. But I'm wondering about your solar array that you would need for that. You talked about solar on site.
Solar will be entirely on the roof panel.
It will be roof panels, okay.
And we're not putting solar farms, so to
Right.
speak. And they are retractable so that we try to make a micro environment which is healthy, which is non-polluted. so that whatever the person who rents or leases or buys that greenhouse from us, he is able to live in that microenvironment and create his own veggies. He can do whatever he wants to do with the veggies. He can sell them. He can use it for personal use. Our goal is that we want to bring them into the dirt so that they know, understand, like my children, their dirt is this. I mean, they have no concept how the plants grow and how they come. It's a whole lot of, and plus, health is very important. I mean, I think you will all agree that having this so-called supermarket, super fresh, super this, super that, and super foods don't make any sense because they are not.
Yeah, I like your idea, but I'm with John too, schematic and something, and again, we can't commit to something that we don't want to say, then you buy, and then we're, like you said, that's why I bought it for whatever dollar amount. So.
And obviously-
We can't obligate that right now, but I
Impact
do
on-
like your idea.
On the neighborhood as well as, I mean, that's got to be one of our considerations, and the neighboring community that's right there.
So we took that consideration because before I wanted to come down here, and Lars is our real estate man who's trying to help me out, that we did take into the consideration the closeness and proximity to the neighborhood. But we are not running a 24/7 show. We are running a show which is not a show, it's just a place for somebody to go back and relax and do something with nature, understand nature, how things grow, how things work. And how can we can control our own environment ourselves and not worry about what we are told. The fake news. I mean, there is so much fake news that you don't even know what is real or what is fake.
Right. So I agree with my colleagues. I'm intrigued by the idea, but I would like to see something a little bit more formal on paper. So I think when you're ready to bring that in, I think I would certainly welcome some sort
I
of.
fully understand.
more
I was
detail.
told by the planning board, come down in informal presentation.
Sure.
Right.
We were trying to set up some kind of a.
Send them our thanks. It's very difficult to do spontaneous zoning,
No.
rezoning.
I didn't expect
basis
that.
of-
I only wanted to put
Some-
the idea in your head, in your mind, so that when we do a formal presentation with the schematics, then I guess you will have a better idea. But I just,
Exactly.
I am happy that three of the five are in sync with the idea that they would like this idea to mature to a next level.
Yeah.
And
I
I'll
do
be
just
more
have
than
one.
happy to.
Just one question, though. I'm sorry to interrupt. What about this property? There are other properties, other agricultural properties in town. What about this property? Is the right
This property
size, the
suits me
location?
very much because it's flat land.
Okay.
Flat land means that I can get enough power for the whole year for the greenhouse. So it will be zero power. I probably may need some gas lines because we did all this research first, but for heating. But if people want 4-season, we do need heat. And can we have these batteries which store electricity? They're very expensive. And that will just up the cost of I mean, I want to make it an affordable, middle-class greenhouse. I'm not making it for a fancy, it's just affordable, working, middle-class, so that they want to live healthy and understand that there's nothing you have to go to the market for. You can do it all there, whether it's herbs, whether it's fish you want to fillet, or the chicken, or the eggs, or whatever. And if that counts, and plus it's going to be also very intriguing to the kids because there'll be an app which they can control from their phone, which I don't like the idea. They can control everything. The humidity, the temperature, the water, and all those things, and then plus the water conservation because we're going to store the rainwater, recirculate the same water. And to be honest, and I will forgive me for my ignorance, I do not know how much would we need the facilities or the boards, how much water we'll need, how much electricity we need from them.
Like I said, the particulars is probably not the best time right now of getting
Okay.
into that, but
I've taken enough of my time and I don't want to get into that.
the concept I like.
Okay, so,
Love to hear more.
and we will present you with some schematics and then we'll see where we go.
If I could suggest to you, next time you come in, give the supervisor a heads up and he can, actually put you on the agenda so you have a little more time to work with, and we might have time to be better prepared to interact with you.
Yes, that was the whole concept, that to throw the idea in your mind, so you will have a lot of questions once you absorb what I'm trying to say. And then we can have a constructive discussion, and then when we agree, then I can then bid on the land and buy the land and get the project going.
Right. I appreciate you doing it, sir, and happy to hear from you. Just one last quick question. Do you know of any sites that do something like what you're
No, this is
proposing here at all?
totally original,
This is
original.
totally, okay?
And if it grows, it's good for Malta, because it's going to bring in a lot of people, and more people, more revenue, and good for everybody's salaries.
Awesome.
Would it be possible that I would be able to speak, since it's the same subject, briefly on the same matter?
Sure.
I think clear up a couple of the questions you guys.
Absolutely.
Had, if that's all
Yep.
right. So a couple of the questions you guys had for was, are there?
And if you could, I'm sorry, if you just
My name's
identify.
Lars Huskwadzinski. I'm a real estate agent with Julian Co Realty. I
Thank
do
you.
a lot of work with Julian Sunny. So when Arvinder came to me with this concept, we thought it was unique and original. Something different to bring to the community. I don't need to go into the semantics of that. You had made a couple of mentions, one to go on the agenda. We won't be ready to go onto the agenda until we are able to give you everything. So that would be site engineers, plans. If we're going to come, we're going to come correct with everything. This was more of a temperature check from the town to see how well received this project would be here, as it's something new and of its kind. I would remind the board that that property has been on the market for well over a year. It is not going to be a development because it's zoned purely for just one more house, abutted against 87 with, High Road right there. There is an easement through that property that is for a future road. Who knows if that will happen or not, but there is an easement already in play there for a road to come through. There's only one house there. I can't imagine that would happen. So the question would be, why that property? One, finding creative uses on properties close to Interstate 87. Two, it's a really quiet neighbor. It's not something that is going to be generating a lot of noise, which would be in the first and forefront of the neighborhood and community behind it, right? So that's a big part of this. There's a 300-foot buffer off 87. We would be very happy with the site plan to be putting something like that in effect. There's enough land there with 27 acres where we could create a really good green buffer zone there. It's already a quiet neighbor where it wouldn't really be right up against somebody's backyard and really set it different. I think the infrastructure that's right there, as you know, the Michaels Group has Thompson's Farm happening right there as well. I think an opportunity to have kind of a little bit more green than just kind of a really dense corner right there. There's not a light at that corner as it is. And there's quite a few people that are moving from Ballston Spa through East High Street, as we all know, in that corridor right there. It's got a nice sight line. It's kind of intriguing to see the greenhouses in a different concept, and I think it's something that the community could get behind. I know we have a community garden here that's full, and I know there's a lot of communities that are trying to do gardens. I think it's a concept that's interesting, but we would most definitely be coming to the agenda when we're ready with site plan engineer. What we want to know and what we really wanted to do is just check the temperature here. So just to be very clear.
Have you checked the temperature of the HOA next door, spoken to the HOA president or board at all?
Yep. So I did have conversations with the HOA president. There's not much they can say in terms of would they be happy with it or not, right? So they're going to put it on their agenda.
No, they can say, well,
Right, but the property behind them, they don't own, and there's no buffer there, and it is an agribusiness, so it's zoned for agriculture back there. So, when they bought and purchased that, they were aware that that's what it is. So it's not an intended or a use variance or a special use permit required where all of a sudden the field goal posts are being moved.
I'm afraid I'm not understanding your point, though.
Point being that I don't know that there would be a problem with greenhouses. We would most certainly be asking them, but I'm not sure that they were, what did they think was going to happen with that land? I'm pretty sure it was not packaged to them as Forever Wild or Forever Green Space, right? It's been on the market for over a year, unless the board really just wants one single family residence right there, which may be the case. The town and the HOA may prefer that, but as of now, I don't have a firm answer to give you, but I certainly have checked.
Thanks.
That's it for us, so thanks so much, guys.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, appreciate it.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Hi, good, how are you?
Can y'all hear me? Because I'm a little shorter than this tall gentleman over here. Good evening. I'm Nancy D'Onofrio, and I live in Luther Forest. I've been a resident of the town for 31 years, and I'm a member of the Save Luther Forest group. I want to convey that we're not wanting the New York State Police to leave Malta vicinity, although we will continue to work toward an agreement that this land at the entry to Luther Forest is not a proper location in Malta for a trooper barracks, as it was not the proper location for a firehouse in 2012. Mr. Dunn would remember that, as well as Mr. Warner if he were here. A building of this nature belongs in a corridor that services the entire town of Malta, not tucked away in a residential neighborhood. As disappointed as I was to miss the town board meeting of May 22nd, 23, I was grateful to be able to watch the replay on YouTube. Sadly, I was let down by the deplorable comebacks of the town board members to our presenters in so many ways. The town of Malta is not clearly a democracy, as we spoke transparency and your team delivered back to us remarks that felt unjustified. Mr. Warner and Mr. Dunn have repeatedly stated that the state police threatened to leave Malta if we did not provide them with this piece of land to build an updated service facility. We do not believe that they ever said such a thing to the previous town board. We only heard and read of offers of this property in the meeting minutes. The now Major Letardo even stated that he had no familiarity of the area and he was aware that there was a pedestrian walkway that they would want to avoid, not to pass over a pedestrian sidewalk and use conservative entrance and exit on Partridge Drum. You say this entry will not be used, but it's doubtful since the Dunning exit and entrance would have to be entirely reconfigured in the median on Dunning to allow for both right and left-hand turns in a two-lane road. Especially in traffic, Mr. Dunn and Mr. Warner, I'm sorry Mr. Warner's not here, but I'm sure you're aware of the heavy traffic on that two-lane highway, all during business day, times of day and night. I'm sure you've sat in that traffic, Mr. Dunn. The group has done a lot of work, submitted several FOILs, only to receive little back in response. Recently, as suggested by the board, we foiled OGS and the New York State Police to receive back a redacted, unavailable preliminary plan for the building. This building, which should not be placed on that property, has no place on that property, no matter how nice they make it look. It's a parking lot for 30-plus vehicles. It belongs next to similar type configurations on a lesser treed road. This is a residential neighborhood. And the planning board has approved a new residential neighborhood adjacent to this. So I can only wonder, did anybody bother to disclose to that builder who their next door neighbor is going to be for that new residential 500,000 plus homes that's going to be abutting that? I don't understand. This is a residential neighborhood. I do not know if you understand, and you probably do, the liability of this property being upheaved by the mere removal of hundreds of 100-year-old trees. Even if the building were on a slab, which is not known because we're not able to see the planning of the building would still need a minimum depth of up to 12 feet to place the footings for a building this size for a stable foundation. This would disrupt the entire ecosystem of that 4 acres of property, now becomes a liability, and the disruption will cause substantial, insurmountable damage over a very short lifespan of the building, with trees possibly falling on the new building, as well as the folks that have homes on Mayapple have already seen. So the state, would, in order to put this big building in there, 6,000 square foot, 30 parking lot, whatever, they would have to clear cut a massive amount of the 4 acres of trees to not have them fall back on the building. I am uncertain if this does matter to you, although we feel disclosure to the state should happen. This is land that should not be ripped up out of the Luther Forest development. This land was planted with 1,000 trees to buffer and make the gateway into Mr. Dunn's community. It is a very inviting gateway, by the way. I have had people say it's stunning. I will say, Mr. Dunn, I don't know why you would want to jeopardize your residential valuation in this manner, as well as your neighbor's valuation. There have been multiple times said that there were multiple locations reviewed, but to this day, we have never seen where any other location was ever sought after. This was given to the state. They asked for this specific piece of property. I've reviewed the minutes of the meetings multiple times. We will continue to fight with now well over 600 signatures on petitions, combined both paper and internet. We have raised community awareness by the hundreds each week since we started this mission, and we continue to gather more interest in seeking a better solution for this building from the state of New York with the support of the Town Board of Malta to make this a fair and equitable relationship for all parties. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nancy. Just a question for you. I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Hammond.
Tim. You said you had sent foils, New York State, and you received redacted?
Yes, redacted land plans, big black box. So we, not like you or others, we have not seen any ideation of this building in any way whatsoever. So, you know, I know you're skeptical about what's being presented by our group, but it's just, we have
skeptical.
ideation also.
I'm asking truthfully. I'm not
No,
being skeptical.
no, it was redacted.
So did you get any of your questions answered at all?
No.
None. Do you know how many different questions you posed to the state?
I'd have to give you the
Roughly?
official 4,
Okay.
maybe 5.
Okay.
Mr.
Nancy,
Dunn?
Thank you.
How do you, D'Onofrio? How do you
Yes,
say it? Mr. D'Onofrio? I apologize, I'm terrible pronouncing people's names, so.
yours is easy.
7 letters. It's very, very simple. 2 things I just want to clarify. The entrance to the neighborhood, it was certainly not planned to be the entrance to my neighborhood. This was all planned long, long before I moved to the neighborhood. It's a wonderful neighborhood. We love living in the neighborhood, but it wasn't planned for me, certainly. And I also just wanted to clarify, I never said that the state police threatened to leave. I believe when I shared my thoughts early on here, I said one of the reasons I supported the state police going to this parcel is because I had a concern that they would not find another place in Malta to stay, and I wanted the state police to stay in Malta. So I just want to make sure to clarify, because I certainly don't want to put words in the mouth of the New York State Police, and I know it's just easy, you know.
Semantics, but Mr. Warner made it clear when we
I
had a
can't speak for
conversation.
Craig.
I know you can't speak for Craig,
Nor would I want
but
to.
he did make it clear. And so semantics, okay.
And
I'm
I
just
never
making a
remember
statement.
anybody.
I'm not trying
course.
to be argumentative here.
absolutely.
I am just typically transparent. I just believe that there's other locations that could be sought after. Your valuation is going to be lessened by this service barracks placed there, and then the jeopardy of those trees. I'm not a tree hugger. I'm just saying, these trees are gonna fall like dominoes. Once they start disrupting that land, I don't know if you've ever seen large construction projects, it'll look like toothpicks falling. And the least amount of disruption of that land is going to be the most proactive use of that land.
I certainly respect your opinion. I think if I were making any decision as a town board member based on how it would impact the valuation of my home, I wouldn't be doing my job. You know, the decision that I made on this early on was the state police came and said, we're looking for a new home. This parcel was identified at the time as had been given
Yeah.
to the town for a municipal
Obviously
building
documented
use.
well.
And so that was how the decision-making took place. You know, and I'm sorry that you disagree, and I respect your opinion. But I appreciate you sharing it with us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy.
Nothing wrong with being a tree hugger.
Hi, I'm Kate Hofer, Miller Road. This is my son Everett. So there are many residents of Miller Road present tonight. We just had a road meeting a couple days ago. Councilman Warner was with us. I have the minutes from the meeting that are still under review, but they will be shared once they are finalized. But I just had a couple of questions that we discussed. A couple months ago, we were here in March. The resolution was passed and sent to New York State to lower the road speed limit to 30 miles an hour. And at that time, you said you were getting a quote for a traffic study. And I was wondering if there was any update on the quote for the traffic study? If you've
I don't
received one
believe we
yet?
have one yet, do we, Ro? I don't remember that we said we were going to get a quote for a traffic study.
The state will conduct their own traffic study as
Yeah.
part of the evaluation.
What I
Is it-
think
Confused maybe with Graham Bailey and the
what we had
traffic
talked,
safety?
no, what we had talked about was some engineering estimate, a quote for an engineering evaluation as to what might be done to make physical improvements there. One of the things that, at least on paper, looks like it might be possible would be to put a walkway in there for part of it, sidewalk. There's some legal issues there. You might enclose drainage and widen the road. The idea was to ask our town engineers for a quote to look at what engineering solutions there might be. That was the discussion I think you're referring to.
Okay, has that occurred?
I'm
No.
guessing nothing has occurred.
No, it has not.
Okay. Will it?
I'd like to see it occur, but you got 4 other folks here you got to convince.
I have no issue with that being done.
Agreed.
Third.
Thank you. So some of the other things that we discussed, and we don't know if a study needs to take place in order for us to even consider any of these options, but there are a couple of spots where stop signs could be added on Miller Road. We could add them at the corner of Ruley Road and Miller, make that a 3-way stop. Also on Miller, there's an intersection of Ivy and Glen Eagle. We could make that a 4-way stop. They're quite often, my son and the bike club cross over that road, and we have to have adults standing at the top of the hill. That's right where the hill crests, and people fly over it. So we have adults standing there to try to stop traffic as the bike club crosses over Miller Road. So a 4-way stop there would, I think, act as a deterrent to people who are using Miller Road as a cut through to get to the Northway, but also slow traffic down. We also discussed potentially the installation of solar-powered speed radar signs, if that's an option. And also, I know when I was here previously, we discussed how the light at the corner of East Line, Round Lake Road, and Longkill is one of the reasons why people are using Miller Road as a cut through, because that light is terrible. And just seeing if we had any options to change the light so it's a staggered green light, so that people making a left or people going south down East Line would have an extended green, so they could take a left or go straight, because you can sit there for 10 minutes waiting to even just go straight because people are taking a left and there's no room to go around.
All those things that you're talking about, although we all consider ourselves very smart up here, all those issues are issues that an engineer has to look at. The stop signs and such, there's a manual uniform traffic control devices. The engineers would have to evaluate under that manual whether you could put stop signs. They would have to look at the timing of, a traffic engineer would have to look at this stuff. So hopefully your ideas, it sounds like, could be looked at by an engineer, and we can understand better whether they might be options.
Kate, can you share the notes with us or with the clerk?
We absolutely will. Sharon Buck took the minutes and emailed them to Assemblywoman Warner is in my head, so I have to stop myself and say Councilman Warner, just to make sure that he, agrees with everything, just like you guys review the draft minutes. They're basically in draft form right now. So we absolutely will share them with you so that you know everything that we discussed.
Could you do me one favor, please? And I'm sorry to
Yes.
be so talkative. Could you ask your son to introduce himself?
Oh, he actually wanted to speak.
And that would be delightful.
He just-
I want to hear what grade he's in and what his plans are for the summer.
My name is Everett Hofer. I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm going to camps over the summer.
Oh, what camps are you going to go to?
Lot.
A lot. Sports camps or?
Camp Malta.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's the best camp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And why, what did you want to say to them?
Can we add sidewalks to my road because it's safer so I can ride my bike down the road without feeling like I'm gonna get hit by a car.
That's not too much to ask. We're going to look at it.
Thanks.
Will you promise to make sure you're wearing your bike helmet and pedal really fast when you're going down the sidewalks?
Yeah, you always wear a
Yeah.
helmet, right?
Good.
Yeah. Thank you, Everett.
Thank you.
So when would we be able to expect that the engineer study or quote for an engineer study would be able to happen?
Well, apparently, and I apologize, apparently that somehow fell between the cracks after that meeting.
But I think it would be good to get their notes
Yeah.
first. Will kind of help inform.
It's certainly going to help, and that's what I was about to say, that it's going to help now to have this at this point. Who does?
Okay.
Sure.
The directive was given to reach out to Labella for that purpose, but because you guys have also submitted paperwork regarding reducing the speed limit, also I think Councilman Warner has took it upon and reached out to Labella himself, and so I don't know really kind of where we're at. I mean, I don't have any problem with reaching out, it's a pretty easy thing to do, but I think we kind of have to understand who's doing what and when.
Right.
So that
Yeah, we gotta have our staff take the lead on this.
You said it a lot better than I could have said it, so thank you.
I don't want anyone to think we've forgotten, because we certainly haven't. There's a lot of moving parts, and so it's trying to figure out what is the most appropriate, so we haven't forgotten.
Thank you.
But no,
We
you haven't
appreciate
been
that.
forgotten. And to that point, I would just wanted to ask now, have you yourself noticed any more in the way of law enforcement presence on Miller Road?
I mean, we call daily, sometimes multiple times a day. I know there was one morning, a Sunday morning, that a couple of tickets were written. I personally haven't seen it, so,
Okay.
but,
And the reason I'm asking is because with our dedicated patrol that we have in town now, this was one of the things that we really liked about, among other things, what we really liked about having this dedicated service for Malta is that now we can really earmark the deputy or target an area if we feel it needs to be, paid attention for deeply. And Miller Road, I've talked with them several times about it, and I know for a fact that there was one day in particular where they wrote a good number of tickets. So I bring it up because I know people have said from Miller Road, they don't see law enforcement. They're never there. We call, but they don't show up. I just want to make sure that you folks know they do show up. They have been there. They've increased their presence there. But as I've said to folks that have reached out to me, this is a big town.
yeah.
We got a lot of
Understood.
roads. We got a lot of things going on, and we can't just keep that one deputy on Miller Road for the day.
Yeah, which is why we were hoping that some of these other preventive measures might be considered.
Right?
My last thing is that I did reach out to Assemblywoman Warner's office, and they shared with me that apparently a few years ago there was legislation passed that gave towns more control over changing the speed limit within their towns. I don't have the additional detail for that yet. They were still
So-
doing more research.
Yeah, we actually, Kerry sponsored legislation, I believe at the behest of Judge Sloat, to allow us actually as a town to adjust the speed limits on our own roads. And that goes through the Highway Safety Committee.
Yes.
And that's really what started this whole dialogue on this topic. Woody?
That was in 2017. again, it was Terry Warner that helped us with that. And what the resolution is that the town can have the engineering study done. Previously, you had to wait for the state to do the engineering study, and that would take years. So now, if the town has an engineering study done, it gets forwarded to the state. The state still has to put the final approval on it, but it still has to go to the county, which has never been a problem in the past. The town does the resolution, the county doesn't. The difference is now the engineering study is done, the town pays for it. Okay?
Thank
And
you.
I know that Craig Warner has been looking at that, so.
Yes.
So it sounds like, there's generally support here for advancing that engineering study options, including speed limit reduction to help expedite that with the state. So I think as soon as we can get those notes over, we can start working on connecting with Labella and go from there.
All right. I certainly don't want to do something that Craig maybe has already done or speak with somebody that Craig may have already spoken to, especially in terms of an engineer. So once we get that all compiled into one ball, then we'll be able to deal with it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your continued support.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Nuttall. I live in Luther Forest. I'm part of the whole committee about the firehouse, but I basically just have one question tonight, which I'm hoping you can help me answer. One of the things that was brought up to us with the reasoning for putting the state police there was because of the rise in crime in Malta. I've heard that a lot. I spent a FOIL was sent to the sheriff's department. Basically, all we got back were databases telling us that we could look at. I did look at them, however, nothing breaks out Malta. It's all Saratoga County. So I'm wondering, this rise in crime rate, I would really like to see what we're actually talking about and where can I find that information?
I've never said that, so
I wasn't
can't give the
referring
answer.
to you. No, people have said there's been increased drug use, there's been, the crime rate and all this. So is there any documentation on Malta's crime rate? I mean, if you go and just Google it, it says Malta A+. I mean, it doesn't, and there's been no way that I have been able to, although, I'm not trying to say that I've exhausted everything, but nothing is broken down by the town of Malta.
I'll be happy to, to provide information if I can get my hands on it to you. Frankly, at the time, my recollection was there had been a sexual assault over at the hotel across the Northway, very tragic. There've been meth busts in Luther Forest. My own impression, and it was largely anecdotal, was that there was in fact more serious crime, going on in our town. And I will undertake to look at the data and provide you with what I find.
Okay, so there's no database that anybody can look in to see our crime rate? I'm just curious. I'm not
There
trying
is
to be
data.
difficult.
Yeah, there's data on crime. Yep. I haven't been in, I've looked at it in different communities in past, and I will look for you, okay?
Right, because there was also a lot of comments about we need to keep our town safe. So to me, safe equates to crime. So I could be wrong, but that's my interpretation.
No, that was the primary motivation.
Exactly.
And I've told folks I would do the same thing again today.
I understand that, but that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is I'd like to see
No,
some
it is
data.
available. Police agencies, they track their own data.
Okay.
And you can get those reports. Sometimes they're put out monthly.
And serious crime,
The sheriff did give us the website to look at, which is
the State Division of Criminal Justice Services aggregates data. Some of it goes to the federal government. I'll do my best to try and
I
get a
did
hold
look
of
at the
it for you.
state, the Department of Justice's one today, and as I said, that was the one who broke it down only by Saratoga.
Yeah, this is New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services.
That's the one I looked at today. Criminal
Well,
Justice,
I-
New York
I'll-
Gov.
Yeah, I'll try and take a look at it myself and see if I can help you get data.
Yeah, okay, so then there's no specific thing that anybody's aware of that
Nothing
documents
that,
crime
not
and
that
the rise
we've,
of
unless
crime?
we ask for something. If we ask for something, I'm sure we could get some kind of data, but to my knowledge, we don't routinely get data from them or ask for it for that matter.
Okay, I was just trying to, have a little more look at the whole reasoning behind keeping our community safe. Thank
Right,
you.
sure, thank you.
Hi, my name is Wes Kasmarek. I'm a resident in Miller Road. I just have a few questions relating to what Katie had. One of the things we discussed was stop signs, a number of locations on Miller where they might be applicable. I would like to know, do we have a criteria for how a stop sign gets placed?
Yes.
What do we
the-
use?
Yep, the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is published by an organization, national organization called AASHTO, which is an association of traffic engineers and transportation officials. They have a book that outlines the criteria you're supposed to follow when you determine whether a traffic control device is placed in one location or another. And we're required to follow that. If we don't follow that, we expose the town to liability. If we do something other than that and someone's hurt, we're liable.
I understand. This
Yep.
is one of the things that the engineering study will be looking at?
We hope so.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. Another question I have is, does the town have the authority to increase traffic fines on Miller Road?
I don't know the answer to that. I would say no, would be my first guess.
Traffic crimes.
Judge
are-
Sloat?
Fines are set by the judges. No, the town does not have the right to do that. You know, in the work zones, they specifically put it in the law to double the fines.
I understand.
No, the town does not have the right to. That's the prerogative of the
Okay.
judge. A lot of things-
I would have thought the state wouldn't have minded because they're gonna get a bigger cut anyway, but that's fine. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on with town business. First item on the agenda is to approve a Multiville Water Assistance Grant Program.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I just want to note here in the resolution, we still are naming the comptroller as Kevin King. So I don't know if we need to amend that.
Sorry about that. That's my mistake. Yep, I can,
Steve, you don't have much to do these days. I don't know how that,
yeah, we can
No
just
big deal.
delete the
Must be
reference.
that.
did I just amend that?
Yep. Do you want to?
I would move that we amend the resolution to strike Kevin King's name and add Julia's name.
So forward.
Okay, discussion on the amended motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Pay closer attention next time, would you, Steve?
Yep, you got it.
Must be that Delaware degree.
That's what it is. Next item on the agenda is establish temporary rate for our animal control officer, as reported to the board earlier in the year. The assistant deputy that we had, or I should say deputy animal control officer, left us, so we just have one now. So this is reflective of that change in the rate for him, seeing how he's doing it by himself now.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to appoint a bond counsel and financial advisor. That is, as it pertains to the Multiville Water District vote.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Next item, Julia, budget transfers. You have anything in addition to what we have here?
Nope, just to kind of reiterate on one of the higher amounts here is the increasing of the court contractual, which is we got a JCAP grant. So we're just reflecting that in there so they can do their spending.
Awesome.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried as well. Thank you. Okay, anyone have anything else? We can move on to any more comments or questions from residents. Did that just for you because I knew you had something to say.
Kathy Eitzman, Malta Seniors. Had another successful meeting. Paul did a beautiful presentation to us. And if you're not keeping a journal or diary, you should. And you can redact it or wait until everybody's dead to publish it. He assured me of that. 90 members at our meetings. We
That's great.
have our July luncheon planned. We probably have almost 100 people coming to that. And we have no place to go in August. We have no place to
You're not
hold
going
our
to the
90
track? I mean,
members.
that you
That's a
live at the
little-
track in the summer. Come
It's
on.
a little hard to run a meeting at a track, but we could try that. I'm up to almost trying anything. So if you think of some event, even if we could just go there for coffee and donuts and a place to sit, everywhere I go, I'm looking and counting the chairs. So we did have a wonderful lunch at Azuma, and I counted the chairs. We could almost sit in the back there for a meeting, although it would be a little bit different for a breakfast meeting. But if you think of somebody that's doing a presentation, or if you think of an area that would hold 90 seniors, so easy access and parking is all we need. We're really pretty easy to please. They're a great group, and I want to thank you again so much for supporting them.
That's for August, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there an opportunity at the Round Lake Auditorium?
Thank you.
No, it was close, Tim.
I didn't know how many golf carts you could get going back and forth, Gary.
Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Wait,
Oh, yes.
it's
Motion
not
to,
really,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, motion to move into attorney-client privilege.
So moved?
Second.
We're gonna,
Yeah, I don't anticipate any action
No action on it.
or any reason we could adjourn the meeting. I just wanted to get the board's
Right,
I would
10 minutes.
I would move we adjourn to attorney-client session.
okay.
second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned. Thank you, folks.